Hi everyone, Crista Cowan here with another episode of The Barefoot Genealogist. Today we are talking about state research guides and place pages. Quick little bit of housekeeping. I am actually still in Florida on our road show visiting genealogical societies and libraries across the central and southern part of the state. I'm sure I will have a lot to share with you when I get back from this trip. But what that means is just that today's video is pre-recorded, and so I will not be available live on chat immediately following the presentation if you are watching this live. Now, let's get to today's topic. Today we are talking about state research guides, which are fairly new on Ancestry.com, and we're still releasing some of them. So I'm going to show you where to find those, what kinds of information you're going to find in them, and then we'll talk about place pages. Let's first just talk for just a minute about why these are important. So state research guides and place pages, the primary purpose of them is to lead you to where you can get more information about how to do research in a specific location. So oftentimes you do not live in the same location where your ancestors were from. You need to know things like, when did people first settle this area? Were my people some of the first people there? When did this location start keeping birth records and marriage records and death records? Who holds the records for that location? Because, of course, even with the billions and billions of records that are available online, not all records that we need to access are online. So if those records are not yet online, where do I need to go to access them? All of those are the kinds of things that you need to know in order to make sure that you're locating the accurate information about your family. Make sure that you're climbing your family tree and not someone else's. So let's just talk about the research guides. First off, you're going to find the research guides under the Learning Center, and then you're going to see a little link for research guides. If I come over here to the web, let me just show you again where you can find that. Just click on Learning Center. And research guides is going to be this little green box here, says free. These are free, which means you do not have to have a current subscription to Ancestry.com in order to access them. Now, we've got research guides on all sorts of different things. DNA, we've got research guides on search tips and tricks. We've got research guides on different ethnicities and countries around the world. Immigration information, census, military, right? But your state research guides are going to be under this section entitled New Guides, and it's the bottom link there, State Research Guides. We just started releasing these at the end of last year. These are being put together by some of our genealogy experts, so Juliana Smith, Amy Crow, Ann Mitchell. So they're the ones who are researching and putting together this information for you. So you can see we have a few states represented, and as you can see based on the release dates of when we put these research guides online, they are being released every couple of weeks. So if your state isn't there yet, never fear, it is likely coming soon. So let's go ahead and open up one of these research guides. One of the things we've done is we've made every one of these a PDF file. We did that so that you can download it or print it off if you would like to, so that you actually have an in-hand resource available for you. I know a lot of you are tactile learners and you want something that you can sit next to your computer and refer to as you go. So the first section in all of these research guides is some kind of state history or information about the state, when it was settled, who settled it, what some of the major events are that might have affected your ancestors that lived there, right? A lot of times we have family who moves into or out of an area and we're not quite sure why. Understanding the history of that place a little bit is going to help with that. We then provide you with some information about some of the basic or most foundational records in genealogy, in this case, census records. So we talk about when this particular location started being included in the U.S. federal census, if they're ever missing from one of the federal censuses, or if there's any kind of census substitutes available for that location. In many cases, those census substitutes are going to be tax lists, which are super valuable for family history. Now, the next thing you're going to notice in these state research guides is a timeline. So we provide you with a timeline just of significant events, right? The first part was a history, a little bit more broad. This is going to be a little more comprehensive, right down to like very specific things that would have affected your ancestors. how and when and where and why they would have obtained land in that location, information like that. That's going to be in the timeline. Sometimes that timeline is going to run several pages, but look at the events that were happening in the years shortly before your ancestors arrived there, and then through their time in that location. My guess is you'll get some ideas about new records or new information you need to go seek out in order to discover more about them. We're going to wrap up this research guide here with some information about the vital records for the state. Now, one of the really cool things about a PDF is that even though you can print it out and put it on your computer, or print it out and have it on paper, if you're using it on your computer, if you've downloaded it to your own computer, every one of these links here in this PDF are clickable. So for example, if I was to click this link here for the Georgia Department of Community Health, that's going to take me to their state vital records page, where I can access the records that they have that are not yet online. Here's a link to the Georgia Archives. Georgia has been digitizing some of their own records online and putting them online on their own state website. And so this then is a link to the Georgia Virtual Vault. You'll also see links to the collections specific to Georgia that are available on Ancestry.com, which is really useful. It's just another way to get into the records and to start searching them. So for example, if I was to click this Georgia Marriage Index, it's going to take me straight to that specific database for that specific location. Now remember, anytime you use a database on Ancestry.com, always scroll down past that, that search box, or read that source information, check out that database description. That database description very often has much more detailed information, in the cases of these births, marriages, and deaths, often broken out by county, that will tell you exactly when the county records in this database start. So just because the database starts in 1851 doesn't mean every county started keeping records that year. So look at that database description to get an idea of what's included and what's not included in that particular database. So those are the vital records for that particular location. And then we just provide you with some additional state resources. There are places all over the web and places in those locations, in this case Georgia, historical societies, genealogical societies. There are US GenWeb volunteer projects. Lots of resources available for doing research in that particular location. So we're going to provide you with as many of the links to as many of those resources as we can on that research guide. Finally, we're going to wrap up here with some records that might be unique to that area, or that might be of particular interest to people who are doing research in different ethnicities in that area. In the case of Georgia, it's going to be some Native American information. These are links to databases on Ancestry.com that have that Native American information, and African American resources available on Ancestry.com that are connected to this particular location. So those are the state research guides. Again, their purpose is just to give you a one location place to go to learn more about the state, more about what kinds of records are available, more about why your ancestor may have ended up there, and to spark some ideas for how you can do additional research in that location, including links to some of those places. You're going to find that again in the Learning Center. In the Learning Center, you're going to click on Research Guides. And from the research guides, you're going to click on state research guides. Just another reminder, those are ongoing. We are adding to those and putting out new states every couple of weeks. So if your state's not yet there, never fear, it will be on its way. Now, let's just talk about place pages really quickly. Place pages, if you're not sure where to find them, are going to be found from the search button. So if you click search and then scroll down to the bottom, so I'm just going to click the search button. That's going to take me to our search page that you're probably well familiar with. Scroll down past that search box, and on this, in this instance, you're going to see a map. That map is clickable, which means I can click on any one of these tabs to take me to a different location in the world. And once I get to the place in the world I'm interested in, I can click on any one of these smaller locations to learn more about that specific location. So I can come here, for example, to West Virginia. That's going to take me to the West Virginia place page. What this is it's just a collection of databases, links to databases on Ancestry.com that contain records for that particular location. Just another way into the data, right? So our goal is to get you to the records that you need to find for your family. And so the more ways we can provide to you to get to that data, the more successful you're going to be. So place pages are just another way to get to that data. I do, however, want to point out on these place pages that this collections tab is not the only thing going on here. A lot of you come to this page and you click the database you're interested in, and that's all you do. So I'm also going to point out that there are two additional tabs here. You're on the collections tab when you first land on this page, but there's also a history tab and a resources tab. Okay, the collections tab are links to databases on Ancestry.com that have records specific to that location. The history tab is just going to provide you some brief information about the history of that location. Again, that's important because you need to know why your ancestor would have been compelled to go there, or what drew them, right? Migration is a matter of push and pull. Things were pushing them to leave where they were, and things were pulling them to go somewhere to another specific location. And so understanding the history of the place helps you understand what was pulling them to that particular location. And so we provide you with some of that history and, again, some of that timeline information about that particular location. That's the history tab. The resources tab then provides you with information about particular record types and when and where they may have been. There may be some exclusions, right? So sometimes states are excluded, or probably usually before they became states is the most common. They were not included in the federal census. You need to know that. In this case, West Virginia, right, they were not a state right away. They were part of Virginia before that. And so for any enumerations prior to 1863, you have to look in Virginia. So the people may have always lived in the same place, and you know that place as West Virginia, but understanding that prior to 1863 there was no West Virginia helps you understand where to go to look for the records that you need. We also provide you with some information about vital records, when the state started keeping those vital records, who owns or who holds those records, particularly, like again in the case of West Virginia, or states whose boundaries who have not always been what we currently know them as, those locations where not just boundary changes have occurred, but entire territories have been broken up into smaller states. Understanding what the time periods are when different records were kept helps you know where to go to look for some of those records. In the case of West Virginia, they didn't become a state until 1863, so you need to understand that prior to that, those records are probably going to be held by the state of Virginia. And getting your head wrapped around those boundary changes and what some of the laws are that govern those vital records, that's going to be important to know where to find the record you're looking for. The final resource there on this place page are our statewide research resources and our specialty and regional research resources. So we provide you with links, again, kind of similar to the research guides, links to other places online where you can find information or records about people who lived in this state. So the West Virginia Archives, the GenWeb project, a Virginia and Regional History Collection online, the National Archives in Philadelphia, right, which is a neighboring state, Pennsylvania, but they hold a lot of records for that region. Bureau of Land Management, which is actually a federal agency, also has records for that particular state. And then some newspapers and just different places, right? Again, the point of these place pages and the point of the research guides is just to help expand your knowledge about what resources are available to help you do research in that particular place. Finally, let me just wrap up with a quick plug about the Ancestry Wiki. If you click on Learning Center and go to Family History Wiki, and there we have the Red Book. This is going to be actually the most more detailed than any of the other two things I've shown you. So hover over Learning Center, click on Family History Wiki, and then select the Red Book. The Red Book is organized by state. So if I scroll down here to the table of contents, I can click on any state. So if I click on Illinois, for example, it's going to take me to articles written by professional genealogists and genealogy experts in these locations about that particular location. This is going to be probably your most detailed resource available, right? The other two, the research guide is something you can print out and have by your computer. The place pages are meant kind of as a quick reference. The Red Book here in the Family History Wiki is super detailed. I mean, down to the level of when each county in that state was formed. You can even drill down by county to see what additional records are available. There's an overview article, and then this little sidebar here will take you to a more detailed page about information about specific record types in that location. So there are we use the same records in genealogy regardless, right? Vital records, census records, land records, court and tax and church and military, like it's all the same kinds of records. But here in the United States, those records are, the laws that govern those records are done usually by state. And so understanding the vital records for the state of Illinois is going to be different than understanding the vital records for the states of West Virginia or Georgia. So the Family History Wiki under the Learning Center, and then click on the Red Book and select the state from the table of contents to get some really detailed information. Again, the purpose of that is just to help you understand what resources are available, both online and offline, so that you can be successful in your family history research, so you can find the people that you're looking for in your family tree. So that's all I have prepared for you today. I hope that was useful. If you have other topics you'd like discussed, please send me an email at ask@ancestry.com. If you have missed any of our previous videos, you can find them all archived on our YouTube channel. The URL is there at the bottom of the screen. Again, just a reminder, this video is pre-recorded today, so those of you who join us live, unfortunately, I will not be available on chat until I return from my Florida roadshow visiting genealogical societies and libraries throughout the state of Florida. Until next time, this is Crista Cowan. Have fun climbing your family tree.